The space station was silent, the kind of silence that felt heavy. Broken lights flickered on the walls, dust floated in the air like tiny ghosts. In the corner near the broken benches of the arrival gate sat a small alien girl, her arms wrapped around a thin bag that looked older than her. She had been waiting for years, her eyes always staring at the docking bay doors. Every time the alarm for incoming ships rang, she jumped up with hope. Her little voice whispered, "Maybe this time it's them." But every time the ships landed, strangers walked out and no one came for her. Her parents had left her here long ago. They promised to return. They told her to wait. So she waited. Day turned into night. Seasons passed. Traders came and went. But the little girl remained in the same spot. The other aliens on the station called her names. Some mocked her. Some ignored her completely. "She's still here?" They laughed. "That's no child, that's forgotten property." But the girl did not reply. She hugged her bag tighter and kept waiting. Her small body was weak, her skin pale under the station's dying lights. But her eyes, large, round, and shining, still carried a spark of hope even when her voice trembled, even when her stomach cried with hunger. One evening, as the air smelled of rust and oil, a human stepped into the station. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with tired eyes that had seen too much war. He walked like someone carrying invisible weight. He only came here to catch a ride, nothing more. But then, he noticed her. At first, he thought she was just a shadow in the corner, but when her head lifted, he saw the sadness in her eyes. Her small form too fragile for a place like this. She clutched her bag tighter when she noticed him staring. The human frowned. He asked himself, "Why is a child sitting here alone?" He walked closer, his boots echoing on the metal floor. The girl lowered her head, afraid he would mock her too. "Where are your parents?" the man asked in a rough but calm voice. "They're coming," she whispered, her voice so soft it almost broke. "They promised to come back for me." The man glanced around. The station workers looked away. None cared. The traders only smirked. As if enjoying the scene, one alien chuckled and said loudly, "She has been waiting for years, human. Her parents are gone. She is nothing but leftover baggage." The human's jaw tightened. He did not like the sound of their laughter. The girl pressed her knees to her chest, whispering again, "They'll come. They will." But the tremble in her voice betrayed her fear. For the first time in a long while, someone didn't just walk past her. The human crouched down so his eyes were level with hers. "You've been waiting all this time?" he asked gently. She nodded. A tear slid down her cheek. She quickly wiped it, not wanting to look weak. The man's heart felt heavy. He knew abandonment when he saw it. He had seen soldiers left behind, promises broken, and eyes that never lost hope even when the world turned against them. This little girl carried the same look. A silence stretched between them, the kind of silence filled with questions. Then the loudspeaker of the station buzzed, announcing another ship's arrival. The girl's head snapped toward the docking bay. Her eyes wide with hope, she stood quickly, clutching her bag. "They're here," she whispered, her tiny feet running to the edge of the bay. The doors opened, steam hissed, strangers walked out. None of them looked at her. None of them called her name. The girl stood frozen. Her shoulders sank. Her eyes dimmed again. The hope shattered in a second. The human watched, his fists clenched, his chest tight. This was not just a child waiting. This was a wound that never healed. The traders laughed once more, the cruel sound echoing through the cold metal walls. The girl walked back slowly to her corner. Her bag dragging on the floor, she sat down again, curling up, whispering to herself, "Next time they'll come, next time." The man stared at her. He did not move. He did not speak. But inside his heart something stirred. For the first time in years, the girl was not completely alone, and for the first time the human asked himself a dangerous question. If no one comes for her, will I? The story had just begun, and the station, once silent, now held the quiet breath of fate waiting to unfold. The human could not stop looking at her. The girl sat in the corner again, hugging her bag as if it was her only shield. Her little eyes still fixed on the docking doors even though everyone knew no one would come. He walked slowly toward her. Other aliens watched with curiosity. Some even whispered, "Why is a human wasting time on her?" But he ignored them. The girl noticed his shadow. She looked up quickly, her voice came out small and shaking. "You don't need to talk to me, sir, they'll be here soon." The man crouched again, his eyes serious but gentle. "How long have you been waiting?" She hugged her bag tighter. "I don't know," she said softly. "The lights have broken and repaired many times. I counted them until I lost track." Her words hit him like a stone. Years, maybe more. She was too young to even measure time properly. She had been left in this decaying station with nothing but hope. "Why didn't you leave?" he asked, his voice low. "They told me to stay," she whispered, her lips trembling. "If I leave, they won't find me. They said they'd come. They promised." Her hope was fragile, but still alive, like a candle in a storm. The man sat down on the cold floor across from her. For a moment he said nothing. He only watched her tiny hands gripping the straps of the old bag. Inside were probably worthless things. Maybe a broken toy, maybe scraps of memory, but to her it was treasure. Around them, laughter broke out. 3 alien traders pointed at the scene. One shouted, "Human, you're wasting your pity. She's been here forever. Her parents sold her and never looked back, don't you see?" The girl's eyes filled with tears. She looked down, trying not to cry. The human's jaw tightened again, his patience thinning. He looked at the traders with sharp eyes. They stepped back, uneasy at the sudden coldness in his gaze. Turning back to the girl, he asked, "Do you believe them?" She shook her head quickly, wiping her face with her sleeve. "No, they wouldn't leave me. They love me, they promised. They'll come," she said. But her voice cracked halfway. The man leaned closer, his voice quieter. "And if they don't?" The words hit her harder than anything she had heard before. Her eyes widened. She gasped as if he had stolen her breath. Her lips parted, but no answer came. No one had ever asked her that. No one dared. Everyone either mocked or ignored, but this man, this stranger, had just spoken the truth hidden deep in her heart. Her small shoulders shook. She whispered, "They'll come. They have to. Or else." But her voice broke. The human saw it then. The war between her hope and her fear, her desperate wish to believe, fighting against the reality she could not admit. He wanted to reach out, to comfort her, but his hand froze halfway. Would she even accept it? Would his touch bring comfort or only more fear? Before he could decide, a group of older aliens entered the hall. Their eyes landed on the girl instantly. One of them smirked. "Still waiting, little one?" He said cruelly, "Maybe we should take you. You'd be useful in the scrap mines." The girl flinched, shrinking back. She had heard such threats before. The human stood quickly, his shadow covering her once again. His voice was firm. "Back off!" The aliens laughed. "Why protect her? She's no one, not worth a coin." "She's a child," the man growled, his voice like thunder. The aliens stepped back, but their mocking eyes promised they would return. The girl stared at the human, her tiny hands trembling, her voice shaking. "Why did you stop them? You don't know me." He looked down at her, his eyes steady. "Because someone should." Her lips trembled, her heart pounded. For the first time, someone had defended her. Not for profit, not for mockery, but simply because it was right. She whispered, almost too soft to hear. "If they don't come back, will you stay?" The question hung in the air, heavy and dangerous. The human did not answer. Not yet. His chest tightened. He knew what that question meant. It was the weight of hope being placed on him. A stranger, but deep inside, he already knew his path was changing. The girl lowered her head again, whispering to herself, "They'll come, they will, I just have to wait." But her eyes betrayed the cracks in her belief. The human watched her, and for the first time, he wondered if he could let her keep waiting, or if he would be the one to end her endless vigil. The station felt colder that night, but between the girl and the human, something had shifted. A fragile thread had been tied. A question had been asked, and though unanswered, It would not be. Forgotten. And in the shadows unseen, those who mocked them earlier were already planning their return. The waiting was not over. It was only beginning. The station grew louder as more travelers arrived. Engines roared outside the bay, traders shouted their deals, and the smell of metal, smoke, and cheap food filled the air. But in one corner, the small alien girl sat beside the human, her eyes still locked on the docking doors. The human had not left her side since the last incident. His tall frame was like a shield. Though he said little, his presence alone kept others away. Still, the whispers never stopped. "She's still here," one alien hissed. "Useless little thing. No one will take her. Look, now she has a pet human." Another mocked. "Maybe he's lonely enough to keep garbage for company." The girl flinched at their words, but this time she didn't cry. She only hugged her bag tighter and pressed closer to the human shadow. The man ignored the laughter, but his jaw tightened, his eyes narrowed. He had heard cruelty before, but something about this child being the target made his blood burn. Later that night, when most of the station lights had dimmed and only the red glow of emergency lamps painted the hall, the mockers returned, this time not with words but with greedy eyes. 3 of them stepped out of the shadows, broad-shouldered alien traders, their faces sharp and cruel. One carried a chain, another held a stun rod. The girl's heart raced. She recognized them. They had threatened her before. She tried to shrink. Behind the human, her tiny hands gripping his coat. Well, the leader sneered. The little lost thing and her guard dog, how sweet. The human stood slowly, his body tense, his voice low and cold. "Leave." The aliens laughed, the sound sharp like broken glass. "Leave? No, human. We've decided the girl has wasted enough time here. She belongs to no one. So she belongs to us." The girl shook her head quickly, whispering, "No, please." Her voice trembling, the man's fists clenched, his eyes like steel. "She's not yours," he growled. The leader stepped closer, swinging the chain lazily. "Then she's yours? What will you do? Fight all of us for a worthless thing?" The human didn't answer with words. Instead, he moved, his boot hitting the floor with a thud as he stepped forward, his shadow covering the child completely. The girl's breath caught, her eyes wide. She had never seen anyone stand like this. For her, one of the aliens lunged with the stun rod, fast and confident, but the human caught his wrist, twisted hard, and the rod clattered to the ground, sparks flying. The other 2 rushed in. The chain swung through the air. The human ducked, his elbow striking the nearest attacker's chest. The alien staggered back with a cry. The fight was brutal but short. The human fought with precision, every movement sharp and controlled. He wasn't just some traveler. He had training, experience, scars hidden beneath his coat. The girl crouched low, trembling, her wide eyes following every strike, every sound. At last, the leader stumbled back, clutching his bleeding lip, his chain slipping from his hands, his eyes filled with rage. "This isn't over, human," he spat. "You've made enemies tonight, enemies that won't forget." They retreated, dragging their wounded pride with them, their threats echoing as they disappeared into the dark halls. Silence fell, heavy and sharp, the girl's small breaths the only sound. The human turned, crouching down again, his hand reaching toward her. "Are you hurt?" he asked, his voice softer now. She shook her head quickly, tears shining in her eyes. "No, but they'll come back," she whispered, fear breaking through her small voice. He looked at her, his expression firm. "Then I'll still be here." Her lip trembled, her heart pounding. She had never heard words like that before, not from anyone. For a long moment, she just stared at him. And then, carefully, she whispered, "Why? Why do you care? Everyone else laughs, everyone else calls me nothing." He didn't answer right away, his gaze distant, his memories heavy. Finally, he said, "Because I know what it means to be left behind." The words sank into her heart, deeper than anything she had ever heard. She lowered her head, whispering, "If they never come back, will you take me with you?" The question hung in the air like a fragile thread, one that could break at any second. The human's chest tightened. He had not come here to save anyone, but looking at her small face, her trembling hands, and her Endless waiting, he realized he could not walk away. Before he could answer, the station lights flickered, alarms buzzed. A voice boomed through the speakers. Docking Bay 7 compromised, unauthorized forces detected. The human's eyes darkened. He knew this was not a coincidence. The men he fought were not finished. They had gone for reinforcements. He rose. To his full height, his voice steady. "Stay close," and he told her. The girl nodded quickly, her tiny hand slipping into his. For the first time, she was not alone. And for the first time, the human knew this was only the beginning. The alarms faded after a while. The attackers never returned that night, but the girl could not sleep. She sat curled against the cold wall, her small eyes wide open, her bag clutched tightly to her chest. The human sat nearby, silent, his broad shoulders tense. He had chosen not to leave, though his ship had been waiting. Something in him refused to walk away from her. Finally, when the silence grew too heavy, she whispered, "They'll come back, won't they?" He looked at her, his voice calm. "Maybe, but they won't take you while I'm here." Her lips trembled, she lowered her head. "Everyone says I'm worthless, that I don't matter, but you stopped them. You fought for me." The man leaned back against the wall, his gaze distant. "Because you're not worthless, and no child should fight alone." His words made her chest feel warm but also strange, like something fragile was breaking inside her. The long years of waiting, the endless mockery, all the loneliness. It began to crack under his kindness. She shifted closer, almost without realizing it, her voice shaking. "If they never come. If my parents never come back, what will happen to me?" The man's throat tightened. He had no easy answer. He stared at her small face, the hope and fear locked inside her eyes. After a long pause, he said quietly, "Then you'll still have someone to stand beside you." Her breath caught. She stared at him, her tiny hands gripping her bag tighter. Then slowly she whispered, "Do you mean you?" He didn't reply with words, but he gave a small nod, his eyes steady. And in that moment, the girl felt something she had not felt in years. Safety. The night dragged on, but she finally closed her eyes, her head leaning against his side, her breathing soft and even. She had always slept in fear, but tonight with him near, she felt safe enough to dream. The man didn't move. He sat still, letting her rest, his gaze sharp on the shadows, his thoughts heavy. He never imagined he would stay here, yet now leaving her felt impossible. When morning came, the station woke with noise and life again. Traders shouting, machines rumbling. The girl opened her eyes slowly, blinking at the brightness, then she realized she had leaned against him all night. She pulled back quickly, embarrassed. "Sorry," she whispered. The man shook his head. "No need to be sorry," but others had noticed. Whispers spread quickly through the crowd. "The human has taken her in," one said. "How foolish." Another laughed. "He'll regret it. No one touches what doesn't belong to them." The girl lowered her head, shame filling her chest. "They'll come after me again," she said quietly. "They will," the man replied. "But you won't face them alone anymore." Her small heart beat faster. Those words meant more than anything she had ever heard. Later that day, he bought food, simple bread and stew from a stall. He handed it to her without a word. She froze, staring at the warm bowl in her hands. She had not eaten real food in days, maybe weeks. "Eat," he said firmly. She looked at him, her eyes wide, then back at the food. She took a small bite, then another. Her cheeks flushed as tears filled her eyes. "It's good," she whispered, her voice breaking. He nodded once, saying nothing more. But inside, he felt something stir, watching her eat like she was tasting life for the first time that evening. She sat close to him again, her voice softer. "Why do you stay? You could leave, you don't owe me anything." The man stared at her for a long time. Finally, he said, "Because I don't want to see you wait here until you break." Her throat tightened. She blinked quickly to stop her tears, then whispered, "Then can I stay near you? Even just for a little while?" His eyes softened. He gave a slow nod. "Stay," he said. But know this. You must be ready. Trouble will follow. I don't care, she whispered. I'd rather face trouble with you than wait alone again. The words pierced deep into him. He had faced war, enemies, and betrayal, but nothing had struck his heart as sharply as this small girl's trust. That night, when the station grew quiet once more, the girl lay beside him, not in fear but with a strange sense of peace. And as she drifted to sleep, she whispered the words that would never leave his memory. If my parents never come, then will you be my family? The man's chest tightened. He didn't answer aloud, but his hand rested gently on her shoulder, a silent promise forming in the darkness. He had come here for a simple stop, but now he knew. His path had changed forever. The days after the fight were tense. The girl stayed close to the human, her small steps always behind his larger ones. She no longer sat in the corner of the station waiting for the docking doors. Instead, she followed him, holding her bag. Her eyes filled with a new kind of hope, but hope was dangerous. Word spread quickly through the station. The human had taken the abandoned child. Whispers traveled like fire, and soon the wrong ears had heard. She belongs to us, one trader snarled. She was left behind. She's property now if the human keeps her. He steals from us. Others agreed, not because they cared for the girl, but because they saw profit. A small alien child could be sold, trained, or broken, and no one would ask questions. The human knew it. He saw the stares that followed them through the corridors, eyes that held greed, eyes that held hate. He felt the danger rising with every step. That evening, as they sat in a quiet corner eating bread, the girl whispered, "They're watching us." He nodded slowly. "I know." Her hands trembled around her food. "What if they take me when you're gone? What if they take me when I sleep?" The human leaned closer, his voice steady. "I won't let them." Her eyes searched his, desperate. "But you can't fight all of them." He looked at her, his jaw tight. "Then we don't stay here." Her heart skipped. She froze. "Leave? You mean with you?" "Yes," he said firmly. "If we stay, they'll take you. If we run, we might have a chance." Her small lips parted, her eyes filled with tears she quickly wiped away. "But what if my parents come while I'm gone? What if they look for me and I'm not here?" His chest tightened. He had no soft answer this time. He placed his hand gently on her shoulder. "If they loved you, they wouldn't have left you alone this long." Her breath caught. She stared at him. The truth was, like a knife, sharp and painful, but deep inside, she knew he was right. Her silence was her answer. That night they prepared to leave. The human checked the docks. Most ships were guarded. The traders who wanted the girl had spread their influence. They would not let her go easily. As they moved, through the dim corridors, shadows followed, voices hissed behind them. "There they are." "Don't let them reach the ships." The girl's small hand gripped his tightly, her bag bouncing against her side as they hurried, her heart pounding so loudly she thought others might hear it. Then the first attack came. 3 figures stepped out, blocking the hall. One raised a weapon. "Hand her over, human, she isn't yours." The man's voice was iron. "She isn't yours either." The fight was fast. His fists struck like thunder. One attacker fell, another screamed. The girl covered her ears, trembling. But she did not let go of his hand. They ran. Alarms began to ring. Security was not helping them. They had been bribed. The hunters had power here. The human realized they were not just fighting a few thugs, they were fighting the system itself. Through narrow passages, down broken stairs, across fuel-scented halls, they fled, always one step ahead of those who chased them. The girl gasped, between breaths. "Why are they chasing us? Why me?" "Because you're easy to take," he said, his voice steady even as they ran. "Because they think no one will fight for you, but they're wrong." Her chest tightened. Tears stung her. Eyes, "Why do you fight for me?" His answer was short but heavy. "Because you deserve to live free." They reached the docks, the vast bay filled with ships glowing under cold lights. But guards were everywhere. The traders had spread the word. They were waiting. The girl froze. fear gripping her small body. "We'll never make it," she whispered. The human crouched down, his eyes sharp. "Listen to me, no matter what happens, don't let go of my hand, understand?" She nodded quickly, her tears falling. "I won't." Together they moved, weaving through shadows, but shouts broke out. "There! Stop them!" Figures ran toward them, heavy boots echoing. The girl clung to him, her small legs struggling to keep up. The human pulled her behind a stack of crates, his chest rising fast, his mind racing. He had fought battles before, but this time it wasn't his life alone on the line. It was hers. She looked up at him, her voice trembling. "If they catch us, they'll take me away from you." His hand gripped hers tighter, his eyes fierce. "Then I'll make sure they don't catch us." In that moment she believed him. Her fear didn't vanish, but it changed, turning into trust, a bond stronger than the walls around them. The chase had begun, and it would not end until one of them fell. The docking bay was alive with chaos. Lights flashed red, alarms echoed, ships hissed with steam as their engines powered down. But the girl saw none of it. All she saw were the shadows closing in, dozens of figures spreading through the bay, every exit blocked. The human pulled her behind him, his eyes sharp, his hand steady on hers. The girl's heart pounded as she whispered, "There are too many." He didn't look back, his voice calm and iron strong. "We don't run anymore." The hunters moved closer, their voices cruel. "Hand her over, human. She's not yours, she's ours. Her parents left her. She belongs to the market." The girl flinched at those words, the same words she had heard whispered for years, but the man's voice cut through them like fire. "She belongs to no one." The crowd laughed. The sound was cold. "Then fight us all. Let's see how long you last." The human stepped forward. The girl clutched her bag tight, her knees weak. She had seen him fight before, but now there were too many. She wanted to scream for him to stop, but her voice froze. The first attacker charged, swinging a heavy iron bar. The human moved like lightning. His arm caught the strike, his elbow smashed into the attacker's chest. The alien fell with a cry. Another came from the side, a blade in hand. The human ducked low, sweeping his leg. The blade clattered across the floor. The alien dropped. The girl's breath caught. She wanted to close her eyes, but she couldn't. Every strike, every sound pulled her deeper into the moment. The hunters began to circle, trying to overwhelm him. Chains swung, fists punched, weapons sparked, but the human fought like a storm, his body moving with precision, his strikes fueled not by anger but by something stronger. The girl realized it then. He wasn't fighting for survival. He was fighting for her. Still, the numbers grew. The human's breath grew heavy. His arm bled from a cut, his lip bruised. The crowd cheered for his fall. The girl shook her head violently, her small voice breaking through the noise. "Don't stop. Please don't stop." He heard her trembling voice stronger than any weapon, and his body answered. His fists rose again, his strikes sharper, his will unbroken. For every enemy that fell, two more came forward. The girl clutched the ground, her tears falling. She wanted to help, but she was too small, too weak. Then something inside her broke. She stood, her voice rising louder than ever before. "Stop hurting him. Leave him alone." The bay froze for a moment. The child who had always been silent, who had always whispered only to herself, now shouted with all her strength. Her cry cut through the crowd. Even the human turned for a second, his chest heaving, but in her eyes, he saw not fear, but courage. The hunters snarled, "Quiet, little one, you're nothing." But the human's voice thundered, "She's not nothing. She's mine to protect." The words silenced the bay, heavy and sharp. The attackers lunged again, furious, but the human fought with renewed fire, every punch driven by his vow, every movement faster, as if her voice had given him new strength. The girl fell to her knees, watching, whispering through her tears, "Please don't leave me, please." Finally, the last of the attackers staggered back, groaning on the floor, the bay littered with bodies, weapons scattered, silence thick in the air. The human stood in the center, blood on his hands, his chest rising and falling like a drum. He turned, his eyes meeting the girl's. She ran too, Him clutching his coat, her face buried against him, her voice breaking. You didn't leave me, you didn't let them take me. His hand rested on her back, firm and steady. I told you, as long as I breathe, no one takes you. Her tears fell harder, but they were different tears, not only of fear but of relief. Around them, the bay workers and traders whispered. None dared laugh now. None dared mock. They had seen what one human could do, but the man knew the fight wasn't over. There would be more. The system itself was against them. Still, he looked down at the child trembling in his arms, and he knew he would not let go. The girl lifted her head, her small eyes shining. Where do we go now? His answer was quiet, but certain. Somewhere they can't touch you. Somewhere you can belong. And for the first time, she believed it was possible. The stand at the dock was over, but their journey together had only begun. The docking bay was quiet after the fight. Broken weapons lay scattered. Groans echoed from those who had been beaten, but no one dared move against the human again. The girl stayed close to him, her small hands gripping his coat. Her little heart still racing, they walked away from the wreckage slowly. The crowd parted, traders and guards looked down. No one dared block their path. Everyone had seen what he was willing to do for her, but danger was not gone. The human knew it. He felt the weight of many eyes. He knew the ones who wanted her would not stop. Yet when he looked down at the girl, clinging to him, trembling but refusing to let go, he also knew he would never stop either. They reached a quieter hall, far from the crowd. The girl finally looked up at him, her voice soft. Will they keep coming? Yes, he said firmly, but they won't take you while I stand. Her throat tightened. Tears filled her eyes again. But this time they were different. Not only fear, but something warm. Something she had not felt since the day her parents left, she whispered. Then I'm not alone anymore. The human crouched, looking at her, his voice steady. No, you're not. That night they stayed near a small freight ship hidden in the shadows. The girl leaned against him, her bag pressed to her chest. She whispered softly, all these years I waited. I thought if I just stayed, they'd come back, but they never did. Her small voice cracked. Why didn't they come back? Wasn't I good enough? The man's chest tightened. He wanted to tell her the truth, that sometimes people leave not because of the child, but because of their own weakness. Still, he chose his words carefully. It's not your fault. They didn't come back because they didn't deserve you. She looked at him, her large eyes searching for lies but found none. Her tears slid down, and for the first time, she let herself cry without holding back. He didn't move away. He let her cry against him, his steady hand resting on her shoulder. When the tears slowed, she whispered, if they never come, can I stay with you? Can I be your family? The question hung in the air, fragile but heavy. The human stayed silent for a moment, his eyes distant. He had lived through battles, lost comrades, buried memories. He never thought of family again. Yet here was this small, broken child asking to belong. Finally, his voice came low but steady. Yes, you can. The girl's breath caught. Her small fingers gripped his sleeve tightly. Really? Really, he said. From now on, you're not waiting anymore. You're coming with me. Her heart soared. Warmth spread through her chest, something she thought she would never feel again. She whispered the word she had been too afraid to say. Family. The human gave a small nod. Not smiling, but his eyes softened. Family, he repeated. The next morning they prepared to leave. The human found a ship that would take them off the station. The pilot asked no questions after seeing the look in the man's eyes. As they boarded, the girl paused, turning to look back at the docking doors one last time. For years, she had stared at them, hoping they would open to her parents' faces. Now she whispered, Goodbye. The human stood beside her, watching silently, then placed a hand on her shoulder, guiding her forward. Inside the ship, she sat close to him, the stars outside the window glowing as the engines roared. She whispered, Where will we go now? He answered simply, Somewhere better. She leaned against him, her eyes heavy with sleep, but before drifting off, she whispered, "Thank you for not leaving me." His gaze stayed on the stars, his voice quiet but firm. Never. As the ship left the broken station behind, the girl no longer waited for parents who would never return. She no longer counted the lights or listened for doors that opened to strangers. She had someone who stayed, someone who fought, someone who chose her. She had a new family, and this time she believed it would last.